Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
A Bright spoiler app?
Because you deserve it, and you've earned it.
Sounds like a punishment.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
Well, you guys didn't do your chores, so now
Yep,
you have
so now
to...
you're getting a Bright
Yeah,
spoiler
we're going
app.
to talk about
Yeah.
a really bad Netflix film.
Yes. That cost $90 million.
That should make you mad.
Yeah, it should. It should. As a clear-thinking American,
That's a...
that should make you angry.
Sounds like you're from some evangelical super PAC. As a hygienic Christian, you should always...
Yes, and as a hygienic Christian, it should make you angry.
$3.5 million for the script.
Yes. Yes.
If that doesn't make you...
As an English teacher, that should make you angry.
As an Englishman,
Yes,
as a in Her Majesty's Secret Service, that should make you mad.
That should also make you mad. But we've got a sponsor for this.
That doesn't make me mad, Chris. That makes me very happy.
No, and this is it does it. It should make you happy.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's and we have a new sponsor. We've
Ding,
never
ding,
had
ding,
before,
ding, new
called
sponsor sound effect.
Simple Contacts. Simple Contacts is a convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. It's vision care simplified. What I find fascinating about this is you can actually, they have an app where you can actually take your eye exam on the app and order your contacts. So you don't even have to go to a doctor's office.
Wow.
So it's really cool.
That
It's
is simple.
Convenience, and you can get your brand of contacts in minutes. No more doctor's office or waiting room. Speed. The vision test takes like less than 5 minutes. Reliability, choice, and all the brands of lenses. It's support. You get great customer support and savings. The vision test is only $20.
Well, that's like unbelievable how convenient and cheap that is. That's a great deal.
There is one little disclaimer. This isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam. So, the app's not going to help if you have glaucoma.
Go get that checked out.
Yeah,
Go to an
yeah.
eye doc. Go to an eye doctor and get that checked out. But then once you just want to redo once you've had that, then just boom on the app and get your
You're
contacts
done.
sent to your house.
You're set.
Now you're all ready to watch movies.
Yes.
With clear vision.
Even bad ones. Now you want to take your contacts out to watch
for
Bright. Yeah.
Just take them out and put a hot towel over your head and just sort of listen to it.
Yes. And then you'll get less angry. But we're not going to let you guys pay full price. $30 off your contacts at simplecontacts.com/CFN. That's simplecontacts.com/CFN. simplecontacts.com, or you can enter the code CFN at checkout.
Get your eyes right.
Yeah, get your eyes right and have those contacts shipped right to your home.
Boom.
And we've got some Patreon sponsors.
Well, look at this now, Chris.
Yeah, you'd think for the Patreon sponsors, they only get mentioned on the main episode.
No,
no.
No, sir.
Unless we forget, they get mentioned on the spoiler eps.
Oh, yeah.
We have a podcast that watches mostly classic horror movies to figure out horror movie fandom. That's frightfullyuninformed.com. And also, Johnny Rulon has a book called Green Cheek, A Junkie's Guide to Street Magic. It's on Amazon, both digital and hard copy. It's an experimental stream of consciousness novel, which follows the exploits of the muse Calliope and her immortal lover T.S. on a journey through time, dreams, and the hidden places of a supernatural America. Facebook.com/Happy Horror Show Productions.
Support the show. That's $50 a month. You get your URL read, your business, and so that's a cool tier you can go to the Patreon and get. And then folks just listening, if you want to check these websites out, that's a good way to help support the show for free. Just click on the sponsors links and let them know you're there. Let them know you found them through comedyfilmnerds.com.
Please do. Now let's talk about Bright. Now first let's talk about the ending.
God
how
damn it.
ridiculously
God
stupid
damn
the
it,
ending
Chris.
was. Now, when the movie started and they were saying we're looking for a magic wand, but only 1 in a million can hold it. Wouldn't you immediately know, Will Smith's going to be able to hold a magic wand. Of course he's going to be able to. Yeah. He's going to be the Bright.
Yeah. And they kept talking about 1 in a million and that person's life changes.
Yeah.
So I was like, so when is Will Smith going to hold this thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's like how long? Why is it taking so long for him to hold the wand?
And then why did they keep talking about this Ragnarok reckoning guy coming back or whatever? That asshole never showed up.
Nope, never showed up. They just talked about it and how the orcs picked the wrong side many years ago. And I think the thing that made me laugh the most was just Elf Town, like the Rodeo Drive where all the rich elves would shop, and it was like so ridiculous.
It was so many missed opportunities.
Yes.
And they could have. I saw what they were trying to do. The orcs are there's gangs and they're treated like less than,
Right.
and the elves are the rich people.
They're the poverty class, the elves are the elite,
Mhm.
and okay, I get that, and the humans are somewhere in between.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunity for commentary and even satire, but there was nothing there. There was the biggest commentary was like, oh, you're trying to be more human, you cut your tusks off or whatever, like your teeth. That was the one thing that Joel Edgerton's character had. He had like the lower tusks or fangs were shaven down.
Yeah, so he's like a sellout.
Right.
He's viewed as a sellout in orc land. And
but just seeing the orcs in gang clothes, I'm like, it looked like a 4-year-old was making this movie. It really, I'm like, are we supposed to buy this as a serious drama? Really?
I know.
Really?
And I just like, and if they're trying to make it as a serious drama, then why do they have all of this like tired, like it's honestly like they just went to like a script vault from late 80s or early 90s action movies.
They went to 90s cliche town.
Yeah, it was all 90s. It's like when Tom Cruise makes one of those movies and you're like, oh, he made a 90s action movie.
Right.
Like you had so many.
Will Smith he could have taken any line from Bad Boys or any of those. It felt like it was just a search and replace on the script. Just occasionally use the word orc.
It's like when Arnold went in his heyday, and the rumor was there was just a guy on set that just wrote those like,
I'll be back.
I'll be back. If he bleeds, we can kill it. Like so, there was just like Will Smith has his guy just going
from the 90s.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be this heavy thing, and if they're trying to be serious and show like the severity of it, then when they're about to die, don't have them just like joking while they're behind a cop car getting shot at.
Right, exactly.
Like that was the thing, and I know this is the director from End of Watch.
And Suicide Squad.
Yeah. So End of Watch had some decent stuff in it, but then it sort of fell apart a little bit. But one of the things that I did like about End of Watch was the partnership of the cops. The banter was not during a gunfight. Well, the banter is like they're driving down the street and they're just talking about their personal lives.
It also shows what an uneven director he is. Like, because you see the same problem with Suicide Squad, where it was supposed to be this dark, gritty movie. Then the studio came in and like, well, no, we got to lighten it up and put more jokes in and have Will Smith do quippy lines and. And
just play a Will Smith character from a half a dozen Will Smith movies.
Exactly. So you can't put those together and make them mesh properly. I mean, he can't. What I'm saying is there is a way to do it. He can't do it. So, the script was a mess and uneven. The directing was a mess and uneven. And, like, I'll give Will Smith a lot of credit. He did the best he could with what he had to work with, which was
Same
next
with Joel
to nothing.
Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton, too, yeah.
And Joel Edgerton was trying to...
He's got that same kind of presence where he can be really menacing, whereas he played completely a different type of character in this. If you strip away all the makeup, he was really just kind of the put upon, junior partner who was just trying to get by.
Yeah, and I think so we've seen this. I mean, this is like when Tyne Daly was in a Dirty Harry movie. This like she had to prove herself, as a female cop with big bad Harry Callahan,
right?
And had to earn his respect, right? So there's some things, and actually, Joel Edgerton's character was the only character that I thought had some decent depth and character arc by comparison.
Right?
To the rest of the movie.
Yeah. It's a relative term
because
for sure.
Orcs are battling with the cops. I mean, the movie opens with Will Smith is gunned down by an orc.
Yes.
And he's like a year removed from this, and he's still having flashbacks or whatever.
Right.
So.
And you don't really learn what happened until later.
Right.
Which is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then you understand that orcs are, they're just mainly all in gangs, and they're the enemy, and we fought them in some great battle in Russia that they just sort of allude to, which I was like, okay, fine. And so they talk about, oh, he's part of the new diversity hire within the department, he's the first orc cop.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these interesting things for an actor as skilled as Joel Edgerton to play with.
Right.
And whose side are you really on? And Will Smith doesn't really trust him. The other guys in the department are like, who's your new partner? You know, there's that typical locker room stuff.
Yeah, and that
But
was
it was
like,
all it was all littered with and weighed down with these dumb cliches.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, look, you're in a locker room full of caricatures.
Yeah, it's a two-dimensional locker patrol.
Mm-hmm. And like, well, no, we're going to see them again. And it's like, even like, you know, I like, Margaret Cho. We know Margaret Cho, and I like her. And they gave her literally nothing to work with.
And what an interesting thing it could have been.
Right.
Margaret Cho and a Latino cop, I believe, and another couple cops find the wand, and their thing is, we're going to kill this orc.
Right.
And Will Smith, you need to make a decision. That was an interesting
moral quandary.
And instead of the old, like, we found $50,000 in drugs.
Right.
We found this magic wand that has the untold powers of the universe.
Yes, and it never gets explained why, well, only a bright can touch it, but how come everyone can use it?
Right.
If we're all excited about using it, but I thought only 1 in a million can touch it.
Right. So that's another one of those things they just threw out.
Right.
And I'm sure they're like, well, we'll explain it in the sequel.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Or I could just wear a glove and use it.
Yeah.
Can I do? Is that okay?
Just like an electrician wears.
Right. Yeah.
There's got to be a magic glove.
Yeah.
But then, so that was, again, such a great, like, oh, that could have been such a cool storyline, a cool scene.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it was kind of cool, and this is how Will Smith is a movie star. So he's able to make it engaging enough to where you're like, oh, he knows they're going to kill him too. How's he going to get out of this? Or is he going to flip on his partner and just let him gun his partner down?
Right.
You know? And wow, what a great moral quandary. And they're taking that classic moral quandary of the cops finding, like I said, the drug or the bag of money or, hey, these drug dealers, we're doing good, and it's like, all right, And
we're getting it off the streets.
Yeah, right. We're getting it off the streets, but they're just like cold hard. But again, it's written not that great. It's two-dimensional.
And you have the Latino gang and the gang members, like the one guy in a wheelchair, and you have where it reminded me a little bit of the Expendables, like when you see them all getting gunned down first by the guns, then by the bad elves. You're like, how many are in this gang?
Right.
How many? There's like 100 people in this gang, and then you realize, it's like the Expendables. The same 4 stuntmen just keep getting killed over and over again. They just come back.
But it was so, and I think it's a testament to Will Smith and Joel Edgerton that I was, and Nomi Rapace, although she's not in it very much, that I was remotely engaged at times. There was times I was really engaged, and then I would go, God.
Because the actors were carrying it.
Right.
The actors were carrying the film.
We're absolutely carrying it. And the premise. The premise was interesting enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Nomi Rapace, she's the bad elf, and there's some bad elf
prophecy,
and there's a group of crazy elves that want to make this prophecy of this guy that they keep talking about that we never see or hear about, and that storyline just fades away.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many potentially cool things. And then the one elf...
The orcs have a giant hole in the ground.
Yeah.
That, like, the hand dug.
Right. Right, exactly. All this cool stuff.
To get to the dragon bones.
And the other thing, too, to get to the dragon bones...
They're mining mithril, guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point that you bring up, the Defenders.
Yes.
And the culmination of all those Marvel Netflix things. When this series, or when this, that's funny, when this movie started, I thought it was the beginning of a series.
Right.
When it ended...
Because of Alien Nation.
Of Alien Nation, which was a movie that became a TV series.
Mm-hmm.
When it ended, I thought, that's the pilot episode just ended.
Right.
Like, they did this thing. It's like, why did they do, like, make this a series? It would be more interesting as a series. You could all these storylines, I have no problem if you drop these into a 13 or 10 episode arc.
Yeah.
And then you spend a whole episode talking about this thing.
And maybe develop at least one of the characters.
One of the characters over 10 hours finally gets a fucking third dimension to its personality.
Yeah, and may have a bit of an inner dialogue. Maybe.
Wouldn't that be interesting if, like, we spent a whole episode on Nomi Rapace and the crazy evil elf section?
Right.
The hand of the elves or whatever.
Yeah,
Why?
the elf hand.
Why? The elf hand. Why are they like that?
Well, it's Alienation is a great template for that, too, because when you saw the movie, you're like, okay, well, I could see this as a TV show, and it became a TV show, but and all these other stories were explored. So, the fact that they greenlit a sequel for the film, I'm like, is that really the right way to go? I mean, in the right hands, if you get a good showrunner, you could actually make this a really interesting television series.
Yeah. And for $90 million, you could make 10 $9 million episodes.
Yeah, just fire Max Landis and David Ayer.
$3.5 million for that
Yes.
script.
Mm-hmm.
20 of that had to go to Will Smith at least.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, Will Smith got a huge
And
portion
you
of
could
that.
never lock him down long enough to do a series. So
Right. But that's the problem,
yeah.
is they were like, we've got Will Smith. And it's like, this is the thing I don't get about Netflix. I'm assuming all of these series are getting crazy views, right? Because Netflix is they don't have
they don't release the numbers.
They don't release the numbers, and they're not they don't care about Nielsen ratings.
Mm-mm.
So really, what they just need is a constant flow of new content to keep up their subscriber base, right? That's
Right.
their business model.
And they're looking at who's watching what, and they said it was their highest rated movie ever.
Was Bright.
It was Bright, yeah. But now, keep in mind, first of all, it was their highest budget. It was their most promoted, and it had one of their biggest stars ever. I mean, Will Smith is one of the biggest stars in the world. So you put all those things together. It's not necessarily the content that sold, that made it the most widely viewed movie in Netflix history. It was really, your star and your marketing that you did, because this movie was marketed months and months and months
well, there
before
must have been
release.
an additional $10 to $30 million in marketing on top of this.
Easily.
And the thing that this is what I guess I just don't understand why they're doing this. And when I read articles, as we talked about in the regular episode, and I've talked to some other people, but I've read articles of like, how can they sustain this business model?
Right.
Well, it did conspicuously coincide with a raise in the price of Netflix. It went up $1.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even that is like not enough to
No.
cover what they're spending in content.
Yeah, certainly not.
Mm-hmm.
But that's curious to me, because I would think because all these Marvel series, no bankable stars,
No.
you know what I mean? You're just going on the Marvel name.
And they might disappear from Netflix too.
Right.
Is,
So wouldn't the Bright series
make more sense?
because-
yeah.
I mean, you're not going to Netflix for blockbuster stars. You're just going there for cool content.
Yes. Something that you're not seeing on networks or cable.
Right.
That's where you're going to streaming.
Lately, I've seen everybody online talk about Black Mirror.
Right.
There's no big names that I'm aware of in Black Mirror.
There's definitely some stars that are in Black Mirror. But here's the thing. They're one-offs. So you have a star in Black Mirror. They're in one episode.
Right.
And that's it. I think Domhnall Gleeson was in one.
Yep.
And also
As well as
Ron Howard's daughter.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard was in one. So you have them in one-offs because they're basically shot like little mini movies.
Right.
So who were some of the other? Were there any other big names?
But
I mean, even Domhnall Gleeson wasn't. He wasn't what he is
Wasn't
now.
huge at the time.
And
Yeah.
Haley Atwell was in that, before.
But
Agent
even
Carter.
that, the way Black Mirror isn't that heavily marketed,
No.
and it's not marketed as look at Domhnall Gleeson and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Exactly.
It's like Black Mirror, cool concept, cool Netflix thing.
Yep. Twilight Zone for the digital age. That's how it's marketed, and that's how it's presented. And like you said, it doesn't have this giant marketing budget behind it.
And it just
but a lot of Netflix shows don't.
Right, and they take off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm really confused, unless it's the thing you talked about in the regular episode of there's rumors that they're trying to get Apple to buy them. So maybe that's why they're like, look, we can get Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I did hear that rumor where instead of Apple, because everyone's going to original content, and Apple's probably eyeing like, well, do we want to create our own content or do we just want to buy a content provider? But, you look at Netflix's debt and you wonder, like, is this a good buy or not?
Now, they have a huge revenue stream. I mean,
Yes.
it's like hundreds of millions of dollars every month
Right.
come in. So, but still, when I see like they're spending $6 billion, they have billions of dollars of debt. I don't know. I'm really curious because
what's the long term what's the long term projections on it?
all it takes is some disruptor or some new company to come in or some new bunch of series to come on some other streaming service or some other way to get this, and then
Well, what is happening is that they're slowly losing their content because everyone's starting their own streaming services. CBS is starting All Access. So,
HBO Go.
HBO Go. So what's going to happen is when
Hulu.
it happened with Star. When the Star used to have all of this content on Netflix, and then when Star's the license expired, they canceled it, and they had a lot of movies and shows and all those things, and all of a sudden, all that content got pulled. It's going to happen with Disney because Disney is starting their own streaming service, so they're going to pull all content from there too, which could be those Netflix superhero shows. We don't know yet. We don't know what these deals are going to look like. And also with Disney buying Fox, now are those shows going to disappear too from Netflix? So, because if you look at Netflix, not all TV series end up there. Only certain ones do. And, you look at like, all right, well, what makes one end up on Netflix and what makes one end up on Hulu or whatever? And the answer is licensing deals. Whoever makes the deal with that network gets the content. So in a way, it's good for the consumer, but in a way, it's also bad because there's no one place you can get all the content you want as a consumer. Like you literally, well, if there's a show I like on Hulu, I got to subscribe to Hulu. If I want the new Star Trek show, I got to go CBS All Access. If I want Black Mirror, I got to do Netflix. So everything is getting segregated. So it's interesting to see how that's going to play out. Like, are consumers going to say, all right, I'll pay for 3 streaming services. All right, I'll pay for 1. All right, I'll pay for 2. Like, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to all shake out.
Yeah, because I look at my own patterns, and I just have Netflix. Yeah, I don't do Hulu. I don't do Amazon Prime.
So, because we have kids, we do Netflix and Amazon Prime because there's a lot of content on both. But those
you don't
are the
do
only
all
2
three.
No, we
And
don't.
You don't do CBS.
No.
Would you do Prime just as a streaming service? Because you get that tied into the service of Prime, the shipping of Prime.
You know what? If it was just streaming, I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
Until the Lord of the Rings series comes out, so then I'm on board. But as far as Prime goes, like I love the free shipping. See, that's one thing that Netflix doesn't offer because they're not a giant retailer as well. But Prime does have a lot of stuff for the kids. Like so, we use it for the old Batman and Superman cartoons and things like that. So the other thing that we like about Amazon, and now this isn't part of Prime, is that instead of paying a certain amount of money every month to get DVDs delivered, like the way Netflix does, we just do on demand. All right, I'll pay $3 for a movie I want to see right now, and that's an easier way to pay because sometimes we found we're so busy, even if it's a kids movie like that the kids want to see, we'd have a disc sitting in our house for like 2-3 weeks. And that's how they would make money because we're not sending discs back. So it's all changing, which is exciting, and it's interesting to see because these companies haven't completely figured it out yet. There's definitely some trial and error.
Well, yeah, so everything's kind of fractioning off, but then you've got like YouTube doing these skinny bundles. YouTube is now getting into the cable provider business, and you can subscribe to YouTube Red and get like, I don't know what it is, but it's like 6 to 10 network shows. Like,
right.
YouTube is getting into this because I think the channels,
HBO is too.
Well, they're realizing that we don't want to be tied to these cable companies. The cable companies are scrambling because even the sports, like the sports leagues, are like, because you see people like Major League Baseball. So for like $80 or $90, you can watch your team. For $130, you watch every game like that, and that's how I watch the Cubs.
Yep.
And it's like
Go Cards.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
World Series Cubs from 2016. The Cards haven't won in a while, so I don't know what they do.
2011. Okay.
You know what Aaron's talking about.
The 2017 NL Central Division champ Cubs. Yes, so we're talking about them.
Sure.
So, but I look at my patterns, and I used to always, like, when I was really, I'm not as much into sports, but I got to get cable because I got to get ESPN and all the sports leagues and stuff. But now it's just like I'd rather just watch, and I watch games because baseball's every day on my phone. If I'm working at home, since the Cubs play a lot of day games, I'll just have it on the TV in the background while I'm working. I did that with the WNBA when I started watching the Sparks. That league pass is like $16, $17 for the entire season, but that's the same thing too. And then they, like, the WNBA archives games. So then I was watching my patterns. I'm like, well, I didn't even watch this game live.
Right.
I'm just going to, and I do that with the Cubs sometimes too. And so I would do that if you just said, well, you can get ESPN for $6 a month, and then I'm paying $90 for the Cubs. You know what I mean? Like, I would just cherry pick the things that I want, and then I'm already paying whatever I'm paying just for Netflix.
Right.
And I think like what CBS is doing and what HBO Go's price point is too high.
Yes.
But if everyone got smart and kept it in the $5-6 range,
Right.
then you could go, oh, I'll just buy, AMC, Comedy Central, whatever you're paying,
Whatever I'm watching.
and get those 6 channels.
And that terrifies the cable companies.
Fuck them.
Yeah, they fought it. There was a congressional bill that was out maybe 5 to 10 years ago. John McCain was one of the big guys behind it. And it was like a la carte cable.
Yeah.
And they fought it like crazy, and now it's
Right.
just happening anyway.
Yeah, it's happening just in a different
Well, they're
way.
just getting rid of net neutrality. That's what Verizon.
Yeah. That's we'll see if that gets restored. I hope it does. But my favorite part of net neutrality is that the cable companies who fought so hard to get it were like, oh no, well, we're not going to change anything. We're not going to. Oh well, if you say you're not going to, then that's we believe you.
Always trust
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
corporation, especially
Yeah.
telecom.
Now, what's interesting is that there were a lot of giant companies against it, but it still went through. Like, Google's not a small company, and neither is Apple, and they fought it, but it didn't matter. It was going through.
Yeah, Ajit Pai, like 5 people made this decision that 90% of the country didn't want.
Right. That sounds familiar.
Huh. It's still a representative democracy.
Yeah.
It's still there.
So now let's talk more about Bright as far as like in a broader sense of movies actually being on Netflix exclusively. Like, Bright never came out in the movie theaters. It was exclusive to Netflix. I'm actually
Really going to miss out on those Oscar nods.
I don't know. It's interesting. It didn't do a qualifying run. I thought it would do a qualifying run to try to get like hair and makeup or one of the possibly the effects nominations, but it didn't even bother. There was no qualifying.
They saw
run
War
for
for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
They knew it was
Yeah, the release date is very curious.
So I'm actually, I like the concept of Netflix having original movies and having them stream only on Netflix, but they've just been awful. I mean, their documentaries have been good, but as far as like their narrative, like it's like Adam Sandler deals and Bright and like they're just
The
there's-
War Dog
yeah,
one we watched.
War Dog. It's like there doesn't seem to be a quality control for the feature division.
Yeah, it's interesting. Especially, their episodic is so good.
Yes.
And even the ones that miss the mark are still like
Still interesting.
Still interesting. There's still a lot of really good elements in there.
Right.
They're still spending a lot on those, though, too. Like
Yeah.
the Crown's
Yes.
pilot was $5 million. Like,
Right.
they're
But there seems to
shelling
be
out.
like people in charge of those. The films seem to be like, well, just let them give people a bunch of money, and let them do whatever they want.
Or it could be if you look at the showrunners they're hiring, Orange is the New Black, and are like proven solid showrunners.
Right.
A lot of them
They're
and-
putting together tight shows.
tight shows, but then they're hiring the wrong directors
Right.
Like-
For the features.
for
yeah.
the features. That's what it feels like. to me.
That's like, oh, a Kevin James movie, Rob Schneider, Adam Sandler. Really? Is this?
Well, the
what we're
Sandler
doing?
thing, I mean, I get that in the sense that
They're getting the views on him.
they're getting the views because one of the movies crashed the servers. So Sandler movies are always just like movies for stoners.
Right.
So you used to go to the video store. You never saw it in the theater. You'd go to the video store and rent the Adam Sandler movie, and you sit there and get baked and watch it. Now you just do it with Netflix.
Right.
So that I almost...
Except for the cobbler.
But those I'm like, I almost give those a pass because...
They're a specific market.
It's Adam Sandler. He has a fan base. The people who watch him, who love those movies, love him. Fine. You know, it's like the Saw movies or something. Like they have their fan base. I get that, but they're trying to do these like heavy narrative dramas that are making these big points, like War Dogs.
Right.
And Bright, we're trying to have, and there's a lot about War Dogs that we liked. We did the spoiler with Jimmy Dore.
He liked it more than we did.
Yeah, because he liked the message that it was making
Mm-hmm.
about America's war machine, and there's no difference from
you and I were more critical of the actual filmmaking aspect of it.
And it
was War Machine.
War Machine. That's right. War Machine.
War Dogs was a different one. Right?
Totally different movie, yeah. War Machine was the Brad Pitt movie that came out last year on Netflix. Again, exclusive on Netflix.
Big star.
Big star. There's a pattern emerging. Big star, big budget, uneven.
Yes.
Too silly. It like be serious or be a full comedy. You know, like both of them, both Bright and War Machine were very uneven and had comedy in weird spots.
Right.
While trying to make significant points.
Like I could see Netflix funding or picking up like a Sicario or something like that. That would make more sense. It would even be more on brand for them too. Like, but they're not doing it.
It's
At
weird.
least not yet.
They're so kicking network TV's ass. Like I can't remember the last time I watched a network TV hour-long show, episodic. There's none of them that I watch.
Well, you don't have kids, so we watch The Flash.
Right.
Yeah, and we watch, some of the CW shows.
Yeah, I might watch some. I mean, but again, those shows might be interesting. But like an hour drama
on network TV. When's the last one you watched?
I can't even remember.
It's painful. I watched that 911 because a buddy of mine's gonna do a small part in it, and man, it's awful.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
And so Netflix is like, oh man, we can say whatever we want. We can do all this content stuff, and then their movies are just like, like they're stuck in the 90s with their movies. Yeah. Where their episodics are so cutting edge.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right. It's definitely a disconnect between the feature and TV division.
It's like they must have hired like studio people that are like still thinking old business model with the movie needs to hit these points and do these things, and no it doesn't. Like people won't go buy a ticket if they don't, like they're thinking old box office business model. And rather than just make an amazing piece of content that's 90 to 120 minutes long.
Because this, Bright hit all the 90s movie points.
Right.
The 90s cop movie points.
It felt like it was made by a 90s studio. I don't get it.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other points to make? We went off basically on the streaming services in general, which I thought was good because it was germane to the discussion. Like because Bright is kind of like it's almost a milestone. Yeah. A big budget, giant effects driven buddy cop, fantasy movie. Like, what's the future? Where do we go from here? Are we going to get more of these? Are we going to get less? Is Hulu going to all of a sudden pay for a $90 million movie? We don't know.
Well, because this was the most streamed movie that they've ever had on Netflix, and they've already greenlit a sequel, I wonder if they're like high-fiving like, oh, this is a win.
Right, and I wonder if they're like, well, maybe now we should concentrate on making it better, or they're like, no, don't change a thing. We're going to do the exact same thing again.
Just, hey, David Ayer, here's another $100 million. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm hoping not, but you never know.
All right, guys. Well, let us know what you thought of the film.
Yeah.
And,
we were pretty hard on it. Let us know if you guys thought it was decent or it was like, oh, it was okay. Like, we're a little more unforgiving. Like I know some people are like, well, it was all right. It was a good attempt. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was really awful film. And we're not the only critics to say that. It's something like 90% of the critics.
And and I think I'm tougher on it because Netflix has such leeway.
Yeah.
And can do whatever they want content-wise and prove it time and time again on their episodics.
We expect a little bit more.
I expect more. Like they're making these features as though they have all these constraints that they don't. They
Exactly. Yeah. Like no, they're not there. You don't. You deliberately made sure they weren't.
Oh, that's a PG-13, so we can't put this or that in. There's no. You can
And
show-
that was the other thing about Bright too. Like, when you have this, mix of fantasy and real life, and especially with a cop drama, did it need to be R? Did it really, or could this have been maybe a better PG-13 movie and let more kids see it? So it was also it even felt like we got to say fuck more to make sure people know it's an R movie. Like,
And-
it was such bad dialogue.
Well, that's part of like. Do they even need the rating system for Netflix?
Right.
They don't need it. So why do they have to worry? And the rating system is so stringent. If you say fuck this many times and it's PG-13 and you showed this.
Well, it goes by the TV rating system. It goes, it's TV-14 or TVMA, and it's
Why?
interesting for the features. They're not using the MPAA. They're using the TV version of the ratings.
But they don't use them on their regular series, so what does it matter? Like, what rating do you need? Like, there's no constraints on any of their, like, Orange is the New Black, or,
I think the ratings are, the one thing they are useful for is just to know if your kid can watch it or not. But as far as, like, actually, making these ratings, like, you don't have a marketing reason to make it a certain rating.
That's what
or
I'm
not.
saying.
Yeah.
I understand you need to just, after you finish it, put a rating on it so a parent knows.
Right.
But so much of the construction of a feature film is you have this, like, well, is it PG-13? Is it R? We can't say this. We can't do that.
Exactly.
So why is Netflix implementing that into their production process?
They don't have to.
I don't get it. It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. It's all right. So do better on your features, Netflix.
Come on, Netflix.
Come on. You can do it.
Ramp it up.
Yeah.
We like your business.
Yes, we do.
Um,
Your debt, not so much.
Are you going to take some of it on, Chris?
I'm just wondering, if I should buy stock or not.
Oh.
So-
I don't know. If Apple's sniffing around, maybe. I would buy
maybe
stock.
it'll jump up if Apple buys for sure.
Well, that's our show, guys. Go to comedyfilmnerds.com. Follow us on all of the social medias at comedyfilmnerds.
Mm-hmm. Support us, support the sponsors, and check out Patreon for sure. We could use your dollars.
Boom, shalakalak, boom, everybody. And let us know. Since this got released early on Patreon, you get get to hear it first at Patreon. Then a couple days later, we put it out to the wild.
To the wild, wild west.
Let it run free.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know if that's something you're like, oh, I'm glad I'm paying, or I appreciate that, or I would get a Patreon for that, or that's not important to me, or whatever.
Yeah, let us know. We
Let us
appreciate your feedback.
Hey guys, I had a question. Since I haven't seen Bright, is there at least a moment where it dawns on Will Smith's character that as a black man, racism is a thing? Does that happen in the movie at all?
No, it doesn't.
It's all about, they don't do that. They're all just like, oh, these filthy orcs, and you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, they don't.
Everything's focused on the fantasy characters. All
Yeah,
of the racism
which
type stuff.
should be an allegory.
Yeah.
Should be, sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I think we just talked Aaron out of watching it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everybody at the All Things Comedy Intergalactic Headquarters. My name's Graham Elwood.
I'm Chris Mancini, and as always, remember, Han shot first.
I shot first. Well, the kitten heads across the land, waiting for